I was having a conversation recently at a symposium a month and a half or so ago, maybe a couple months now, where we were talking about fear, risk, and identity. And actually, this specific thing was the subject of my part of the discussion. There's a paradox with fear. If there is a threat to the extinction of your identity, the response is fear, unless you actually want to extinguish yourself. But even then, I suspect there's fear. But the beauty of conquering fear and the paradox and irony of conquering fear is that you extinguish that part of your identity, which is rooted in fear, which many times, if you are a people pleaser, whether by that being your MO or how you're forced to adapt because of a set of circumstances, is the identity that many people assume. And so it's when you are rooted in people pleasing is, in my opinion, at least partially rooted in the fear of rejection, the fear of losing something. And so it has a strong identity component. Overcoming that, then, to me, is an unusually challenging emotional effort because of the fact that it is a shift in your core identity.
Yeah. And thank you for not being one of those people who gets up on a stage and says, fear is just false evidence appearing real. Those acronyms. Oh my. And then everybody claps and cheers and like wets themselves thinking this person's genius. No. If the fear is stopping you from doing something, it is real.
Absolutely.
And just identify it and work through it and work on it and find the right people to guide you and understand where it comes from. But all these blanket statements made by too many people in the personal development world, in coaching and all that. Looks cute on a bumper sticker or stitched on a pillow, but I like your explanation better.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. And one of the things I appreciate about this conversation is that you're bringing it to a place that is of substance. I do feel pretty explicitly what you're saying implicitly, which is that a scourge of our field and of personal development and self-improvement generally is a tendency towards rah-rah, shallow, bumper sticker-ish sorts of solutions, as opposed to looking at things substantively. Mm-hmm. I do feel that if we're going to enter this space and have anything approaching real impact, which God forbid, we are really in a bad space of, having some sort of impact is not one of our goals. So, assuming we want to have some sort of impact and we're not just doing it because we have nothing better to do with our lives, right? Then we've got to go beneath the surface. Humans are complex people. Emotions are complex. The situations that we're in are complex. And the ways out of it are complex. Fear, by the way, and that's one thing, that's interesting. We could go into probably another digression around this, but I'll just put it this way. Certain circumstances relating to the world that we are in right now relate to and directly contribute to discussions around fear in a way that I often find quite superficial, right? You just can't be afraid. Well, sometimes you need to be afraid, right? When I was in the 90s, there was this trend in New York City of subway car riding, where teenage kids would get up on the top of subways and ride. I think they saw it in The Money Pit or some movie like that. The problem is, in the subways, there are these concrete things that extend down from the ceiling periodically. And so people would get on them and be riding on the top of these subway cars and run right into this concrete wall. Well, you need to be afraid. If the coronavirus had ended up being the bubonic plague, sitting around and saying we can't be afraid is shallow BS. Yeah. We need to be afraid. Or if we're afraid, there's always a reason why. It just doesn't randomly come up. Like I said, it may be a default that our mental states are in, but there's a reason for that's substantive. So yes, chanting mantras or putting up bumper stickers or looking at a motivational quote on Instagram might help in the moment. But are we talking about momentary rah-rah? Are we talking about getting applause in an audience and then having everyone walk home and forget what we said 2 seconds later? Or are we about trying to really help folks, really contribute to a dialogue, really be something bigger than we are? This concept of the providential stream it wants us to be real. It doesn't want us to be dipping our tippy toes in and then, splashing a little bit. It wants us to dive all the way in.